You're here at the Pick Dogs YouTube channel. Chris is already venting. That's why part of it. We're late because I had other stuff going on. But the other part is that we don't have any real excuses. I mean, we should always be on time. So no excuse is really good enough. But at the same time, Chris was just ranting about the Phillies behind the scenes there. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. Better morning than the Philadelphia Phillies are having, I'm sure. I have no words after last night. That was some of the worst. You think I mean, I know this is why the games are 7 innings. They play the full game. You're up 7-0. You think you're in a good spot, and then Ranger Suarez just that fourth inning just kind of threw.
Well, what was
everything
worse?
off.
So was it the third and the fourth, or was it the fourth and the fifth? I think it was the third and the fourth where they went through the order in both those innings.
I thought it was maybe I thought it was the fourth and the fifth. But either way, yeah, the 2 inning stretch.
I think it was third and fourth. It might have been third and fourth.
Yeah.
It was a lot of runs in 2 innings and a lot of guys coming to the plate.
Yeah. I think it was the second of those 2 big innings. They had 12 guys come to the plate. The Diamondbacks did. And it was the one error that went to the second baseman where they didn't get the third out, where he kind of bobbled it. It took a hit off his glove. He tried to barehand it. And it made it 7-3, I think it was. And I knew at that point I was in trouble. The bases got loaded, hit that 3-run double down the line, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, maybe they'll get it back in the middle innings. And then Rangers Suarez got into trouble, loaded the bases, let the bullpen come in, and I think I knew I was hooped at that point.
I love the comments in the YouTube of all the people that saying like baseball is fixed. I can't wait for football. It's like it's like football. It's like, because in baseball, it's like at least it comes down to wins and losses. And it's kind of like, well, loss can really affect the wins. And it's like, you have TV markets and all that stuff involved. In football, where you've got the point spread, oh man, you could still have the TV market and the team that the NFL or the books or whatever, the TV markets, all that stuff. You could still have all of those things in place and still screw everybody, with a cover or backdoor or whatever the case may be. But it's funny because I was texting with Romanelli during that Phillies Diamondbacks game, and he was going to give that as his Ron's rundown play of the day was the Phillies, and I talked him out of it. I was like, I like the Diamondbacks in that thing, and he was like, he had ended up on the Red Sox, and after he loses that one, and the Phillies were up 7-0 at the time when that game went final, and he's like, I forget exactly. I'll read exactly what he said to me. He said to me at that time, he said, let me see. He said to me at that time, he said, remember when I said I'm going Phillies run line? And then I ended up saying, never mind, I'll do the Red Sox. He said, yeah, that one hurts. And I said, and this was at 11:04 p.m. Eastern time. So this was when it was 7-0 Phillies. I typed back to him, this one is far from over. Why didn't I in-game it? Why didn't I in-game it? I mean, I had the Diamondbacks. I gave it out as a premium. I had Diamondbacks and I had the Angels. Both. I had one of those days where it's like I hit all of my premium picks except for my $15 big play. And the Giants tried to come back. They just didn't make it. But and they tried, they tried everything. They turned the lights out, knocked the ump out of the game. I mean, they did everything they could possibly do. It's like, let's turn the lights out. It's like you're watching the game. It's like there's a delay. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening. I was texting Romanelli. I'm like, what happened in the Giants game? Because the TV cameras never really capture it, 100%. He's like, the lights went out in the stadium because the TV, it always makes it look lighter than it actually really is. Like, you ever see like the sudden death golf playoff? It looks like they're playing in broad daylight, and it's pitch black outside. Yeah. It's like the cameras are doing that, and that's what it looked like in that Giants game against the Padres, and the lights were out. But on the first batter of the game, a high pop fly to the catcher, and the ump comes running over to do it, loses his footing, the grass gives way, and he basically does the splits right there on the behind the backstop, and he knocks himself out of the game because let's just say umps aren't made to do the splits. Guy was not cut out. It wasn't quite as limber as he had hoped. Yeah. This is what they say. This is what they say. You could watch the same team, right? You can go to the baseball park, 162 games, and you will see something 162 games that you've never seen before every single night. And I think last night was another one of those nights. You know, the Diamondbacks had never come back from a 7-run deficit in their entire history. And the Phillies, that's their second 7-run lead they've blown this year. It's like they blew one against the Mets also. Crazy. But anyways, you've got plenty of action. Of course, Thursday, college football, week 1 in action. Chris, you starting on week 1? Or, I mean, I know you did your write-ups at Sports Shop Place, right? So how are you feeling about week 1 for college football?
You know what? I'm getting a feel for it. There's definitely a few games that I have my eyes on. I even have my eyes on a couple FCS, FBS games as well. I think, they're prime for upsets. We already saw it with Northwestern and Nebraska. The upsets are there.
Oh.
The line maybe not necessarily indicating that, that the right team should be favored in a lot of those spots. So I think, I think definitely I'm keyed in on a few games for week 1 already.
How about a game like UTEP Oklahoma, where we saw UTEP last week, and we know that generally these teams sometimes they just come out flat, and then so the public generally would just run all over to Oklahoma on something like this. Do you think that UTEP fights the good fight in Norman on Will Venerable's first game as head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback and the offensive coordinator, the guy that worked with Matt Corral at Ole Miss, and the guy he worked with, Gabriel Yusef, with, basically this guy, it's just seems like a miserable combination when you have like the best defensive coordinator and one of the best offensive coordinators, and it's like you're UTEP and you're playing in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Could be a bad day at the office.
It was already going to be tough if you had the majority of UTEP's pieces back, but they lost their best receiver, who was really their only deep threat, their only home run threat, and you kind of saw it against North Texas where UTEP had that nice run out of the gate and then they kind of just stalled, and now they're going run heavy, and like you said, against one of the best defensive minds in the country. I think it's going to be tough, especially. I like Dylan Gabriel, and I think he's gonna thrive in Oklahoma. But
yeah, I think we've seen it in the past, but that was under Lincoln Riley, where these quarterbacks would go to Oklahoma and play well. It's going to be interesting Saturday though, for sure. I'm excited for it. Of course, it's my favorite day of the week during my favorite time of the year. But let's get to Major League Baseball. We're in the dog days, past the dog days of summer now. At this point, we are in the pennant push, the pennant drive, the big. This is the whole right. This is the shooting match. The whole enchilada,
the September stretch,
the big tamale, the I don't know what you call it. This is the banana split of the ice cream shop.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yes. Let's get into it here. It is so game 1 for today is going to be the Guardians and the Orioles. This is a good one. 6:10 Eastern time start. Guardians, of course, really putting the hammer down here in the American League Central, and the Orioles 2 games back in the wild card in the American League, where you have some teams that are kind of, they're on the ropes. We saw the Blue Jays battle back last night. Boy, if they lose that game, this one's really interesting. But, Cal Quantrill on the mound up against Spencer Watkins. Orioles 7 games over 500. I mean, if they would have told them on at the end of August, you're going to be 7 games over 500, And they would have taken it. They would have.
Yeah, they would have sold. They would have sold a kidney for it.
Yeah, they would have. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I do like the value with the Orioles here. I also like the under, but yeah, I just see Spencer Watkins. He's lost his last three decisions, but you look at his last couple. He's pitched well enough to give the Orioles a shot to win those games. He lost a decision to the Cubs, and I remember that game I had as a premium. The Orioles just couldn't get a run. They finally got him in the ninth inning, but by then it was too late. The Cubs were just too far gone. And I think they can keep it close here and steal it late against a Guardians team that is the better team record wise and is slightly better. They have a slight starting pitching advantage here, but I just like the value that we're getting with the Orioles. The problem is for the Orioles is that Cleveland bullpen can be really good. It's been one of the best over the last month, but I think there's just enough value here for me to want to take a shot on the Orioles, but I do like the under as well.
Yeah, I like the Guardians here. I think that this is a good series, and I think that we have two good teams, and I think the Orioles have a lot to be happy about this season, and I think they've proved a lot to themselves and to a lot of the audience out there. But the thing is that they're up against a Guardians team that's just cold-blooded this time of year, and they always are, and it's like. Just very, very tough. And I just think this is one of those tough matchups where you kind of have to go to just the better team, and you've got the better team at home here too. And we know the Orioles have shown up, and I would consider Orioles on the run line here, is where I would go. I think it's going to be that kind of game, but I think it's one of those frustrating Guardian wins, 3-2. Type games. And I could see it. 4-3, 3-2, 4-3. Kind of like the way the Twins have been playing recently, where it's kind of like these tight games after the sixth inning. They right? It's like, ugh. I have been staying away from the Twins games because I've been watching them, and I can see that this is the type of game that it's tough to be on either side of it when you're banking for a sixth inning or later rally every time out. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with the. I'll take Orioles run line or Guardians straight up. I'm gonna middle this thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what the total is for the first five. Because, if you wanted, the bullpens I think are actually a strength for these two teams, and if you can factor that into the final total, so be it. But if you just like betting on starters. The first five here I'm seeing at 4.5. I think that's an under all day.
Well, we got the Marlins up against the Rays and Jesus Luzardo and Shane McClanahan going at it. And I'm not big on McClanahan. Everybody knows that. But on the other side of it, the Marlins, 15 in a row losses as dogs versus the American League East. Yikes. At what point do you tap out? At what point do you say, you know what? At what point do you just call in sick? Like the Marlins will not be playing today. They'll call in sick. The game will not be postponed or made up. It will just count it as a loss. They called in sick. That was the weird thing about the Giants game last night. That if they weren't going to play the game, like if they weren't going to be able to finish the game, it would not have been like a rain out where they start over. It would have been they start at that point because it was not weather related. It was the lights. But anyways, back to this one. Marlins against the Rays. Chris, the Marlins, they've done absolutely zilch against the American League East.
Yeah, and I think it is hard to put down the Marlins just based on recent form because their last 10 games, 7 of those came against the Dodgers. But the reality is that the offensive struggles for the Marlins have been there for the last couple of months. I think you're going on around an 80% clip if you look at the last 2 months for the Marlins where they've scored 3 runs or less in a game. And the way that Shane McClanahan can shut down opposing offenses, we saw him give up just 2 runs in 7 innings against the Royals, 6 shutout innings against the Angels last time out. Usually does very well against these subpar offenses. And the Rays were sort of hitting the cover off the ball, and they did so again yesterday. On a Sunday against the Red Sox. I think the streak continues here. I like the Rays on the run line.
I like the Rays not on the run line. I really want to take the Marlins here. I think this is one of those games that I have to not play it, but it's like because I want them. I would take the Marlins if it wasn't for the 15-game losing streak versus the American League East. But it is a reality, and it's like you don't want to you don't want to try and catch a falling knife, as they say. And I think the Marlins might be a falling knife when playing against the American League. But there's so much value there on Luzardo, and McClanahan really has not been the same pitcher that he was the first half of the season. So I think it's one where you kind of, I don't know, it's either you take the Marlins or you don't take it all, at least in my book. We go to our next game, and boy, I gave out the over as one of my premium picks yesterday in this one, the Reds Cardinals, and man, was it an over. And Mike Minor wasn't even pitching. It was Chase Anderson, which